Actually, it's a good segue. Keith, you're up next, but this is a good segue because I think the Russia thing is going to get worse before it gets better, and then they're going to get scared off their path. So I'll take the under. I'll take the 0 for next meeting.
Oh man, Rich is going to start eating my Twinkies. I love Twinkies.
So much confidence in the old boomer, eh? So much confidence.
I know. But you made a good point, though. So if there was none of this, this crisis and a war taking place, again, 25 base points are in the bag. That's going to happen. And I do think they would love to do 50. I don't know if they would. I would actually put money on 25 basis points. But it comes back to your comment, Rich. Like if you feel that, the situation over in Ukraine and elsewhere, it could spread. If it's going to get worse, then, that absolutely puts a 0 rate hike in play. So my suggestion to you, Rich, is don't get excited about the Twinkie. You need to look at the Canadian Bankers Acceptance Contract, my friend. You can buy a nice, you can, make enough to buy like 5 condos from the king of Kitsilano. You can do this.
I want a condo in Banff or somewhere near Calgary. That's where I want.
Hey, come on down. But
let's put some more numbers here, guys, just to let you know. So by September, right now the market is saying we should be at 1.5%.
Keith,
so
it's not happening. It's not happening.
That's embarrassing. But anyways, Keith, can I ask you, because I think the viewers might want to know as well, and I think there's a couple distinctions when we talk about like market pricing and rate hikes. Isn't there there's multiple ways to price
different products? There's different products.
So can you explain like which one you're looking at and maybe the difference?
Well, for these numbers here, I'm just basically looking at what the estimates are. So the economists who contribute to Bloomberg for the Canadian marketplace, and there's a bunch of them. It has their estimates coming up over this cycle. So these will be all the key economists with the big Canadian banks, as well as the global banks that follow Canada as well as some of the independent shops like Global Economics and those guys. Like they're in there as well. And those guys are pretty good at this part of their job on the economy. The whole job numbers and inflation data points, they're a bit trickier to get done. In terms of trying to play this as an investor, it's difficult for the retail investor to do it. It's easier for a professional to do it if they have access to some of these markets. And to do that, you had to be able to trade futures markets effectively. And again, not all investment professionals have access to that market. However, there will be a lot of money playing this right now. So like a lot of big hedge funds out there, and even pension funds trying to hedge their positions, and banks as well. Banks are using these markets all the time. So the tools are available, but for the average person thinking about their RSP and stuff like that, as Rich pointed out, a lot of this has already been priced into the market. So I'm happy to chat with
Steve.
But I'm happy to chat with any. Go back. But I'm happy to chat with anyone, like specifically on things. But you can do it, but it's you need to know what you're doing, basically.
Well, no, okay. I mean, anyways,
let me answer. So to answer the question, because Keith skated around it, I'm just going to nail it down. There's the banker's acceptance, which we've talked about a lot. There's something called the forward overnight index swap. Again, you only have access to these kinds of things if you're on a trading desk. And then the other way to simply do it is, if you really were keen on it, is you could literally be buying or selling the short-term bonds. So the 3-month out, 2-year out, whatever it is. And in the US, to give you context, is a Fed fund futures, which is basically a bond-like instrument that pulls to par. So that basically, as you get closer and closer to maturity, it goes to 100, and you can basically buy or sell that. But almost all, as Keith outlined, almost all these products are basically only available if you're on a proper trading desk. I think retailer investors should probably stay very, very far away from making these kinds of bets. Anyway, back to you.
So the biggest, just to touch on that, but the biggest market in the world for this is the euro dollar contract. So that's linked to the Fed funds futures, what what Rich just mentioned, and that market is enormous. It's if you look at the trading volume today, it's just flying through, right? It's a really great market. The Canadian equivalent is the Canadian Bankers Acceptance Contract, which is a play on the Canadian Central Bank rate, but there's a bit of a credit spread attached to it as well, because that got a bit funky back in when the pandemic, was kicking in 2020. So that was the long answer, from. Maybe I made it too long, but
yeah,
there are opportunities, but don't the average investor, listening think, yeah, I'm going to run out and short the Bank of Canada, because you sort of got to know what you're doing. And most, if you go to your mutual fund guy, he's not going to have a clue what you're talking about.
So long story short is, if you're going to, it's safer for everybody here that's listening just to bet. If you're going to wager a Twinkie. And, keep it simple. And by the way, I think Keith has the only box of Twinkies in all of Halifax. So, geez, your house is going to get targeted here. But yeah, I think that brings us to the next point.